Another great finishing touch to your wedding cake is a fondant ribbon and bow. So what I have here is some very pink fondant. Take out of its protective bag. This is tylose powder, and what that is kind of a gummy chemical that we're going to add to this. It is naturally occurring. We're going to knead it in, and what that's going to do is give our fondant a little more strength, a little more plasticity, and when it dries, it's going to dry like porcelain fairly quickly. So I'm just adding about a teaspoon. I will work this, wake it up just like we would wake up our fondant. If it starts to feel really sticky or stick to any of my tools, then I will use some fat. This is just basically a hydrogenated vegetable shortening. All right, lovely. I'm going to do my top half first, so I won't need as much. This goes back into a bag. Tightly seal it when you're not using it. I'm going to take a little bit of the fat just to coat my fingers and knead that into our blob of fondant. Okay, so now you can see it's really nicely smooth. If I fold it over onto itself a few times, those seams disappear. It's not cracking at all. So this is an acrylic rolling pin. I prefer this over a wooden rolling pin because it doesn't leave any wood grain texture behind. It also doesn't stick too much. So I'm going to roll this out thin, and if you'll notice right here, I actually have a pasta machine with a motor attached. You can do this completely with the rolling pin. This makes it much, much easier. I have it on its widest setting. I'll pass it through once, take it down to another notch, pass it through again. I'm going to take this down 3 or 4 settings so that I have a nice thin, long sheet of fondant. There we go. Actually taking it down just 2 notches made it nice and thin. And definitely long enough to go around our top tier. I'm going to flip this over so I don't get any of the weird grain from the back of our ruler. And I have a little pizza wheel here. So holding down on the edge, I'm just going to go straight, moving my hand to secure the ruler, but not pressing in so much that it's leaving little numbers behind. Now I'm going to reverse my position and just go backwards. If I wanted to do a thicker ribbon, I would just measure it out and make little notches so that I could follow along with the ruler. You want to avoid going back and forth a lot, sawing. You want to go in all one direction. It's going to give you the cleanest cut possible. Cut off our edges, and this can be re-rolled. You want to immediately, always ball it up and put it in the bag before it dries out. Okay, so I'm using the piping gel again, which is just basically sugar and gelatin. And I'm going to paint a thin line all the way around over our wafers. Okay. You want to decide what the back of your cake is when you start doing this part, because the ribbon's actually going to go towards the front. So I'm not wild about the area over here, so I'm going to make this our front. I will pinch this edge down, so I don't want to just squish it together. I want to create a little dimple as if it were fabric, just like that. Pinch that off. And that's good if you've got a little helper who can help you, but I'm just going over the very top edge of our wafers. There we go. Lightly adhere it. And when I get back to the beginning, Create a little dimple again, and pinch. Now is when you want to step back and see if anything is amiss. It's supposed to be emulating fabric, so if it's not perfectly straight, that's not the end of the world, but we want it to be as straight as possible, of course. Excellent. All right, for our fondant bow, very similar process. It got a little dried out on me, so I'm adding a little fat. And once again, I will feed this through our pasta machine. You want your bow to be the same width as your ribbon. All right, get rid of any odd bits. However long you want each loop of your ribbon to be, you're going to make that twice as long. So we'll cut this right down the center. And if you want to just pick it up and fold it over, you'll see exactly how long that would be. This is a little too long. But that's good. That means we can actually have some little tails coming off of the end. So what I'm going to do is cut these both at an angle. And the first thing I'll do is attach the tails. So I'm going to make that little dimple again so that it hangs like fabric. I like using piping gel instead of just water. It holds a lot stronger. And if you're putting something heavy on there like this, you can be assured that it's going to stay. So we go 1, 2, oops. There we go. All right. So now with this, even though it's okay if it's on an edge like that, I create a little dimple on each side and then join them together. Pinch it nicely, and I'm going to let it dry for just a second on its side like this. It's all about getting that kind of dimple like it's a Windsor knot. Okie dokie. More piping gel. And here I'm going to go out a little bit so that the ribbon itself will be attached. Stick it in a little more. There we go. There we go. And by just affixing the back, we get this really nice loop, open loop area. So naturally this area, not so cute. So the last thing we're going to do is take a little extra of our leftover pink fondant, making a nice little ball, squish it down, and the last bit of our piping gel, and we just affix that right to the center. You can press it in so it bows out, and there we have a fondant ribbon and bow.